going to talk football with John Giles. It's been a fascinating weekend of football as usual in the Premier League, and also, of course, the Carabao Cup Final at Wembley, which saw Aston Villa, who are facing relegation, face Manchester City, and a victory for City, of course. That means that Pep Guardiola has won 8 of the last 9 trophies in England, although he's not going to win, it appears, the Premier League this season. John, we'll start with Liverpool, if you don't mind. It was the second underwhelming performance in a week, the West Ham game at home on the Monday night being the first. They got out of jail there in the end, but Watford did them 3-0. Interestingly, I rang you after 20 minutes when we were watching it together, and the first thing you said to me is, this is not going to be easy for Liverpool. This Watford team is pretty good, and they are pretty good, aren't they, John? They're well set up, a lot of big, strong lads.
Yeah, they certainly are, Eamon, and they're down around the relegation, as we know. Pearson's done a good job since he's come in. He had a good start, and then they fell away. But on Saturday, they proved that they can play, and against the best team in the Premiership by a long way this season. They turned it on, Eamon, and did their stuff, and well deserved to win in the end.
Now first of all, it's important to give them credit for what they did, and they have this young lad Sarr. He's 22, who scored the 2 goals and could have had a hat trick. He's 22. He cost 30 million. He'd been out for 5 or 6 weeks with injury. And of course, Deeney scored the 3rd goal. They have some very, very, very good players. Capoue, Doucouré in midfield, Delafeu, who I think is a really good player. He went off with a bad injury after 37 minutes. But still, they had a great shape and a great attitude. And Liverpool, tell me about Liverpool, John. 2 disappointing performances. I would attribute, well, you tell me what you think, but I would attribute Saturday to Lovren in particular. But go on, tell me what you think.
Well, I think Lovren is a weakness, Eamon. I think it's that's well noted. Yeah. But when you're doing what Liverpool do, Eamon, it's phenomenal what they're doing at the moment, and it's not an everyday thing. But you do get games like you get on Saturday, where a team like Watford are near the bottom of the league, play better probably on Saturday than they have played for ages. It does happen, Eamon. And I'll give you a personal experience if you don't mind.
Yeah.
In 1973-74, we went 29 matches unbeaten at the start of the season. We played Stoke away, were beaten 3-2. And the following week at home, lost to Burnley 4-1.
Which is incredible when you think about it, because Stoke and Burnley would have been the Watford of those days.
Yes, that's what can happen. If you go back to even Manchester United, this is now I'm going back a little bit. 96-97, Manchester United were beaten 5-0 at Newcastle, and the following week lost to Southampton 6-3.
Yeah,
went on to win the league, Eamon.
Yeah, I remember the Southampton game in particular because Ferguson, they had a new strip, and it was the grey strip, and he blamed the defeat on the grey strip, and they never wore it again.
Never wore it again, and they went on to win the league.
Yeah,
Eamon.
And the question the question I want to ask you is, in your own experience against, say, Burnley in particular, and Stoke, I mean, what was wrong? Did the team lose its focus?
No.
Was it complacency? What was it?
It was just, Eamon, it's football, it's sport. You can't legislate for everything when you're playing so many matches. A team has a good day, you have a poor day. It's nothing to do with attitude of that. See, I tell my theory on soccer, Eamon, on most sports, it's a game of chance, right?
Yeah.
And what the great coaches do, because they know the game so well, they eliminate the chances, and as much as the chances they possibly can. But it's still ultimately a day, like the centre half, for example, of the opposition hits one from 40 yards. You never hit before, right up in the top corner.
Yeah.
And that's it. And in Liverpool's case, they've got, as I said, with Leeds, we went 29 games unbeaten, and we're beaten in a couple of weeks, two losses, and then picked it up again. So what Liverpool do is phenomenal. What Manchester City did last year, they went, whatever it was, 18, 19 games, haven't been beaten at Newcastle, don't forget.
Yes.
Last year, City beat at Newcastle.
And at home to Crystal Palace, if my memory serves me. But
yes, yeah, it can happen, I mean, it doesn't stop. Like Liverpool, I think there was nothing wrong with Liverpool's attitude or anything on Saturday. It was just one of those days. Things went well for Watford. They've got good players. Why haven't they been doing it every week? Why aren't they higher up in the table? That's what happens. And from Liverpool's case, I think from Klopp's, I would say, look, that was a bad day. We had a bad day at the office. Away we go again. Watford don't suddenly become a great team and Liverpool a bad team. I mean, over the long period of time and so many matches you play, it does happen.
Okay, let me ask you about the remedy. When you lost at home to Burnley and Liverpool this week, how do you get back on the horse? You don't sort of lose faith in your players. You certainly don't criticise them,
No.
outside the dressing room. You guys, Bremner, you, Jack, and all the other players in that great side, did you get on to each other?
No.
Did Don Revie say on Monday morning, what the fuck's going on here, lads?
Well, you'd have a meeting, you'd have a crisis meeting, as you would have, after a couple of defeats like that. But, the great men don't lose faith in their players. Like I said, the first match we were beaten, 29 matches unbeaten, which was phenomenal. So you don't suddenly become a bad side on that particular day. Actually, we were winning the match 2-0, and Stoke came back, did some good players, but they had their day on the day. It wasn't that we were doing anything wrong or complacent. That doesn't happen in teams like Liverpool when they've done so much this season. You suddenly become complacent. Liverpool weren't complacent, they just didn't play well enough, and Watford played particularly well. So I think, like wherever you'd say, okay, we've done that, now we go again. And it does give you a kick up the bum to get going again, which the great teams do.
Right.
And I have no doubt Liverpool will do it. I wouldn't like to be the next team playing Liverpool.
Okay. Now, Lovren in particular, John, have to focus in on him because Matip was on the bench. He only came on near the end of the West Ham game. He's been out for a few months. He's a very, very good player. He was a great acquisition for Liverpool, and he's proved himself to be a top player. Obviously, he'll come back in, as will Joe Gomez. But Lovren had a hand, if you like, in all three goals, and on Saturday. And he's a player that I think all Liverpool fans have their hand on their heart when every time he gets near the ball, whether he's on the ball, whether he's involved. He could have given a penalty away in the first half. In fact, he had his arms all around Troy Deeney. This guy was, as I say, involved. The other thing that I thought might have been involved was the high line when this lad Sarr got in behind them for the second goal. The goal he chipped the goalkeeper. Now Lovren there should have been on the cover, covering Van Dijk, and wasn't.
No, he was in front of Van Dijk, actually, Eamon. For that particular situation, and got caught out. And they said this kid, when he got through Sarr, had the pace to get away from even Van Dijk, who's particularly quick. So it was good. But Lovren is not on the same wavelength as the other Liverpool players, Eamon. I think they're unlucky that they got Gomez and Matip is injured. I would have played Fabinho in the middle of the back for them. Bring that young lad Jones in, Eamon, who's been exceptionally good.
He did well in the cup games,
He's 19 now, Eamon. If he was in any other club, he'd be playing in the Premiership now. But anyway, that's only my opinion on Liverpool. If Lovren's going to be the weakness that he is, then you'd rather have Jones in the team and make a couple of changes than him in the team.
As you say, you wouldn't like to be the next team playing Liverpool. Incidentally, Liverpool have to travel to Chelsea tomorrow night in an FA Cup game. I don't know what team they'll put out. I doubt if they'll put their full team out, but we'll see. Now, I just want to move on, John, to Everton, Manchester United. an incident-packed game. I know Roy Keane was on with Graham Souness on the doing the analysis. First of all, let's talk about David De Gea. When he first joined United, he was hesitant off his line. He looked insecure as a goalkeeper. He didn't inspire confidence in his defenders. Then, I think through good coaching, support, he became acclimatised to the English game, which is different for a goalkeeper because this ball's flying in all the time into the box. He became a player of the season, I think, for 3 years running. But he has made a series of mistakes. Yesterday's mistake was the 7th mistake in 2 seasons that has led to a goal, which is a kind of Premier League record he shares with some other unfortunate. The mistakes he makes seem to me to be a matter of concentration, but they're baffling.
Very, very much so, Eamon. As you say, he was goalkeeper of the year player of the year for Manchester United for 3 years. I think it started in the World Cup, Eamon, a couple of years ago.
Yep, that's right. Made a couple of bad mistakes for Spain. Yep.
He's made unbelievable mistakes, Eamon. I haven't seen anything worse than the weekend, where the Everton player was 20, Calvert-Lewin was 20, 25 yards away from him, and he hesitated, and then knocked it against him. I just found it unbelievable. He has been a great goalkeeper, but as you say, in last 18 months or so, maybe a bit longer, he's made mistakes that he had never ever made before for Manchester United. It's incredible, really. Yeah,
Keane in the studio, I believe, I didn't see the analysis part of it. He said he'd hauled him off at half time. I wouldn't like to make a mistake. I wouldn't like to make any mistake when Roy Keane was my coach. But the other point I want to talk to you about, the other person, is Fernandes, their new signing, Bruno Fernandes from Portugal, 68 million. We've talked quite a bit about him when we've been watching matches together. And he's become a firm favourite with the fans. He scored 2 or 3 goals. And he looks technically accomplished to my eye. What do you make of him?
I think he is accomplished, Eamon. I think he would the fans would take to him now because I think they're looking for a hero, to be quite honest. Eamon, and he's done quite well since he started. I don't see him as a midfield player, Eamon. I see him as a god, and I think when I first spoke to you, I think this will score goals. I think he will score goals. He'll be that type of player. Very, very. I think he will be a very, very good player for them. But he won't be a midfield player as we know midfield players. He won't be Scholes. I see him as Solskjær said one time. He reminds me of Scholes. He doesn't play anywhere near the way where Scholes played. Scholes was a genuine midfield player in that particular way. I think he'd be a goal-scoring player. If you go back to the goal he scored on the weekend, Eamon, it was a short pass that went the goalkeeper playing out from the back. And there was a couple of passes before the Manchester United player got it. Now, I think in that situation, a real midfield player would have been goal side of the ball at that particular time. Actually, when the ball was played to him, he was sort of 15, 20 yards in front of the ball, which means he wasn't getting back to get into a position that a real midfield player. Now, I don't be trying to be too technical, but that would be what he does. And if you get a player like that who has a good shot on him, Eamon, I think he's got good control. He'll get goals for you from that position. But if you're up against it, Eamon, like in the second half, for example, when Manchester United fell away, he didn't get a kick of the ball.
Right. And that's a problem.
Yes, they don't have anybody in there. Like in Manchester United in the great days when you had Keane and Scholes, for example. Scholes would do all that stuff, link from back to front, and Keane would do what he would do. Keane didn't score many goals, but he would make sure there wasn't goals scored against him. So I think Fernandes will have his day. But I wouldn't go with the adulation that he's getting at the moment. I think the Manchester United supporters are down for a hero, and he has come along and done. He'll be a good player. I think he'll get a fair amount of goals for them, but he won't solve the problem of doing what's needed to be done in the middle of the field when they're up against it, particularly.
Now, John, Manchester United under Ole Gunnar Solskjær, I think you, certainly me, Liam, always saying, that Solskjær doesn't really seem to have the presence or the personality, the stature, if you like, which is a kind of nebulous thing in a way, to be the manager of Manchester United. And yet, they are now, the 3 points behind Chelsea. And if City are thrown out of the Champions League, as officially is the case at the moment, Manchester United have a good chance of qualifying for the Champions League under Solskjær. The players he's bought, in my opinion, but my opinion doesn't count for quite as much as yours. He's bought Wan-Bissaka, who I love. I think he's a really good defender. Bought Maguire, who I think has done okay. I'd say he's blooded young players, Williams, Greenwood, and even Fred has come good, which is a surprise. Nevertheless, I would think there's a case you can make to say that he, in all the circumstances, given the failures of Van Gaal and Mourinho before him, that he's done pretty well, Solskjær, and deserves respect and for that. What do you say to that?
Well, I'd always respect him, and I think he's a good lad. I think he's a good character. I have no doubts about that. But we're only talking football terms, and some of the great managers haven't been very nice fellas, as we know. But I think you're lowering the bar quite a lot for him there, Eamon. This is Manchester United, and you're talking about him getting into the Champions League if Manchester City are thrown out.
Yes.
We want to be expecting more from Manchester United. I don't think he was in charge, to be quite honest. I don't know who brought the players in, but I don't think he was in charge of that.
Right.
And my overall feeling about him is he's not in charge in a way that he should be. A manager of Manchester United should be in charge.
Right.
No,
okay.
They're always going to do okay, I mean, by that standard. But when we're judging Manchester United, we're not judging them by being in fifth place for Manchester City to be kicked out to get into the Champions League. So that's my take on. I think what they need is a young Alex Ferguson. I've said this many times before, and there's not many of them around. There's very few of them around, Eamon. I think he's a nice lad. I think he does okay. He's good manner about him and that. But I don't think he has the presence or the stature to do what's needed to be done.
Yeah, we all need a young Alex Ferguson in our lives to improve us, to drive us forward. But we haven't got one. Now, this Carabao Cup, it annoys me, but nevertheless, it doesn't annoy Pep. Neither does the FA Cup, which they beat Watford 6-0 in the FA Cup final last year, and Watford seems to have taken 6 months to get over it. Now, they beat Villa 2-1. The fact that Aston Villa are fighting relegation and are actually in the relegation place at the moment and facing a big battle to get out of it, it just shows that the big clubs don't really respect this competition, what's used to be called the League Cup. And City have a big enough squad to rotate and win games pretty comfortably, which they've done. So the statistic that Pep has won 8 of the last 9 trophies in England is very, very eye-catching. The reality is Villa could have got an equaliser and made it 2-2.
Well, they could have done, Eamon, but City really, really outplayed them. You know, there's no doubt about it. Villa were good in the spirit. They showed the spirit and kept at it. No doubt about that. But overall, there's a stage in the game where when they were winning 2-0, had they got another one, looked like getting it, Eamon, it would have been a rout. But that's not the case. But in the case of that particular cup, Eamon, I know it's been very much underrated and spoiled, really, over the years. But when you see the City fans, Eamon, they still love it, you know. We say, the FA Cup, which it's not. It's lost an awful lot, mainly through the associations. It's been downgraded in a big way. But when you see the supporters still love it, Eamon.
Yes.
You know, the supporters there is packed with this full house yesterday with Villa fans, City fans. City fans don't care about whether it's easy to win or not easy to win, or what. They just love it. Same with the FA Cup. You know, it's the clubs that have ruined it. There's not in the associations that have ruined those particular cups, especially the FA Cup, which was one of the classics, as you know, years and years ago. But the fans still love it. So it was a big day out for City yesterday. It was a good game, actually, because Villa showed enough. When they went 2-0, it could have been anything.
Yes.
But they showed great spirit. They still had about go. And if they continue to do that, Eamon, in the Premiership, every week in and week out, then they will avoid relegation. They put up a good show.
Yeah, they did. I just also wanted to ask you about Jack Grealish. He's a player that we could have had, that we had a chance of getting anyway, qualified to play for Ireland. But just now people are talking about him going to Manchester. How good do you think he is, John? And how far do you think he can go in the game?
I think if he looks after himself, Eamon, I think it was a couple of years ago, he's a bit of a wild lad. He seems to have settled down. I think with one of the top teams, I'd be surprised if City could go for him, with the situation they're in. He'd be a very, very good player for him. I think he'd be a very good player for any of the top teams.
Right.
He just is a good player. He's a very talented lad, Eamon.
Yeah.
And he's playing in a team that's not so good, and he still does it.
Yes.
He's shown the right character and the right approach to it. So I would pay the money for him if I was a manager of any of the top 6 clubs.
Where would you put him in the Manchester United team? Because I think he is genuinely, although he's not playing as a playmaker for Villa at the moment, I have seen him play there in that deeper position as a playmaker, and he's been okay. He's
very good, That's where I'd play him.
Yeah.
I would definitely play him in the middle of midfield.
Yes.
He's very mobile. In other words, he can get back. And when he gets on the ball, he's not a holding midfield player.
No.
He's not a Dyer. He's not a Dyer. He's a player who can get back and get on the ball and really do something on the ball. He can create from that position. He's got one of the few things now. He has one of the few assets or attributes which has been able to go past players, Eamon.
Yep.
Most of the midfield players you see today, it's get the ball, pass it square, pass it back, an awful lot. He can actually go past people from that particular position. So I think he'd be outstanding in the central midfield position with any of the top teams.
Right, okay. Let's move on, John, to a really fascinating result yesterday. Spurs-Wolves at the new Tottenham Stadium, and Wolves beat them 3-2. Matt Doherty scored a goal again. And we should talk about Nuno Espirito Santo, who is the Wolves manager. And I have to say, John, I love watching them play. They are a superb team. They don't have a big squad. They almost play the same team every week. They don't have enough players to rotate. They started in the Europa League qualifiers in mid-July. And here they are now, away to Spurs, going down a goal, but still winning the match 3-2. They're a hell of a good team, aren't they?
They're very good, Eamon. They're very good. The only problem now with them, will it catch up with them at the later stages?
Yeah.
If they're going to catch up on you, that's when it's going to tell, Eamon.
Something I should have said to set this Tottenham Wolves game up. Our friend Nuno Espirito Santo was the reserve goalkeeper at Porto when the special one won the Champions League. So it must have been particularly satisfying for him to go to the special one's home and beat them 3-2.
Yeah, what was the special one thinking, Eamon, at that particular stage? Yeah, you see always plenty of confidence in him. There's no confidence in him when I hear him talking, and that is very, very good. The team reflects what the manager is about ultimately, Eamon, and the team on the pitch is very, very good.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
very good. They got some good players. They bought them in when they were in the lower league, aiming to get promotion, which was very, very good business. And they really, really are good. Spurs were, you would have to say, disappointing again, Eamon.
Yeah.
This is not Mourinho. This is 3 goals again against them.
Yeah.
This is not the Mourinho style that we've seen over the years, where there was very, very few goals given away. But credit to Wolves. They came back. They went behind, came back. I only saw the highlights last night, Eamon. I didn't see the match. But we've seen plenty of other matches where they have played, and they've been very, very good. For the team to get promotion, and I think they finished 7th the first year. It doesn't happen very often now unless you've got really good players, and that's what they have.
Yeah, and there's a guy called Traore who came from the Barcelona training camp, really, from their youth system. He's lightning. And
I mean, he played at Villa.
yeah,
He was at Villa and they threw him out.
Yeah, because he looked like a brainless winger, all pace, but there's a bit more to him than that. I like him.
Yeah, and he's one of the few players that can do that, Eamon, nowadays. There's not many people taking people on and doing it successfully. They take them on, but they lose the ball. But this guy does it well. He's as strong as an ox. He's quick. Yeah. And he's been a huge surprise to me, anyway. I saw him at Villa, and as you say, I thought he was a brainless wonder, but he wasn't. He's not doing that now. He's very, very good.
We had a few brainless wonders in our time, John. Most of them are Shamrock Rovers.
A lot of them.
And you used to love them, those brainless wingers. Anyway, we won't go into your dark secrets about brainless wingers, and we won't name anyone. But it is worth pointing out a couple of things. One is that win by Wolves yesterday puts them 2 points ahead of Tottenham, who are on 40 points, the same number of points as Sheffield United, which is extraordinary when you think of the respective stature of the two clubs. One other question I'd like to ask you, John, it's about Matt Doherty. Now, Seamus Coleman got injured yesterday for Everton, and Seamus is a huge player. He's captain of the Irish team, and we have a big, big game against Slovakia in a couple of weeks' time. Matt Doherty doesn't get in the Irish team because, rightly, I suppose, Seamus Coleman is ahead of him. He's the captain. He's a very good player. This fella Doherty, John, gets a lot of goals. He's a terrific footballer. Yeah,
he's very, very good. Funny enough, I mean, the position he took up, I think, for his goal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like what a forward would do. No, he wasn't really. It came from the ball came from the left hand side, and he got inside the box. Now he obviously has the freedom to do that, and that team that he's in, I mean, does create chances.
Yeah.
Can
we get him into an Irish team? Can you put him in to midfield somewhere, or will that screw things up? You just got to.
No, you'd have to. I'd play him a couple of times in the friendly matches.
Yeah.
I mean. To see what I wouldn't put him in the. Well, I never ever believed to put somebody in on the wing in the prayer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He did play against Gibraltar in very, very bad conditions, and he didn't play very well on the day.
Yeah.
But that was. I wouldn't put him in at competitive. You'd have to, whether it's him or anybody else. I mean, you'd have a good. Well, I think he could play there, but you'd have to see him playing there.
Yeah.
Especially in the international team, you'd have to see him playing in a couple of friendly matches and say, yeah, he can do it, because you put him in and he's not going to do it, then it's a huge loss. I think he's unlucky in many ways, that we have actually two good fullbacks in the international team. Stevens at left back. Stevens,
very good player.
Very good.
Yeah.
Now I saw Doherty when they were in the Premier, the Championship year.
In Wolves,
he played at left back.
He did, yeah,
and it was very good. Yeah. So it's not just Coleman, that's keeping him out of the team. It's Stevens as well.
Yes. So
but I'd love to. I definitely would try him in midfield in a couple of matches, because he could well get you goals from that position as well. But there again, he's playing as a wing back now, Raymond. A wing back are dependent on getting the ball. Yeah. And with Wolves in a good team, he's able to go forward. He's got the freedom to go forward, which he does, right? Yeah. But now he was playing, say, in a lesser team, and I think the Irish team are a lesser team. Is he going to defend as well as Coleman? Is he going to do the things that you need defensively? No. I think he can. I still would have Coleman in the right back position.
If you
don't think he can defend?
I tell you what it is. If you watch him for Wolves, and I've watched him very carefully, he doesn't have any pace at all, really. He's just a very good footballer. He doesn't have any pace. He's not particularly physical, and I would say in terms of tackling, winning the ball, no, he kind of strolls, very elegant for a fullback, and he drifts into those far post positions for Wolves. As you say, they allow him the freedom to do that. But I would definitely favour keeping Seamus there, because Seamus, is a very good defender.
He suits the Wolves team, because they're a very good team, and he drifts into these positions like a striker does.
Yeah.
Now could we afford to have that in the Irish team?
No.
No, we just couldn't. You know, so that's the maybe we got him in midfield and that.
I mean, that's the thing. A bit like Wan-Bissaka at Manchester United. I mean, I think that kid. I'd just like to talk to you for a moment about him because I think he's a brilliant defender. He came from Crystal Palace. You know, he reminds me of now. You'll say, don't be silly, Tony Dunn. Because Tony wasn't great on the ball. Tony was a great fullback for Manchester United, a great left back. But a brilliant defender. This kid almost always gets the ball. When he sticks his foot in, when he's marking someone, he almost always gets the job done. In other words, the forward gets no joy. He's the kind of guy who'd break your heart over 90 minutes, you know? And if he gets a little bit more confidence on the ball and develops a little bit with the ball at his feet going forward, he could be one hell of a player, and he could be at Manchester United for a very long time.
Yeah, he's very good. But one thing is about him, which some players have naturally, he only sees the ball.
Yeah.
Now, I know that sounds a bit odd, but he only sees the ball. He very seldom commits a foul, but he gets stuck in just the same. And I think he's a lot better than Tony going forward.
Yes, Tony wasn't he was just a great defender. He was very quick as well, Tony, but this lad's quick as well.
Yeah, he does more. I saw him the other day. He waltzed past somebody in one of the matches. No, I think he's got it all round. And he seems a very honest kid. He only sees the ball and he sees it there. He just gives very few free kicks away. I mean, you see a lot of lads who don't do that. They give silly free kicks away. I haven't seen him do that at all. He just sees the ball. He's very honest. He goes for it, and he has the pace not to get forward. I think he will be a top class player. I think you're right there. Definitely, I would agree with that. Okay,
just a final question, John, about Champions League last week. Real Madrid beat Barcelona 2-0 last night in the Clásico. What your take on the Manchester City Real Madrid match? I mean, people raving about City's performance, and they got their win, and it was a very good performance actually. But Madrid are in rag order, and they were still able to beat Barca last night.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you again, because people are raving about Kevin De Bruyne, and particularly about his performance in the Bernabeu last Wednesday night. I still hold the same reservations about him that I've always had, which are really about his temperament. And I know you share them to a certain extent. Did you think his performance in the Bernabeu last week was out of this world?
No, I didn't think it was out of this world, Eamon. It was very important contribution because he scored a penalty, which they hadn't scored for 4 penalties beforehand. But his pass for the goal was very good, and he played well. He's a very, very talented lad. But I think we said this. I don't like his temperament. He came on yesterday, but he only came on yesterday. He did okay. Yep. He didn't do anymore. But I think it's got in the press now, particularly that he's the best in the world. And I don't see that at all. I think he has the talent to be the best in the world, but I don't think he has the temperament to do it. Yeah. I'd like to see him do more for City instead of sometimes throwing his arms up in the air if he's not happy with a colleague. All this carry on. I don't think he like the ultimate for commitment to the team was Roy Keane.
Yep.
Right? Yep. That's what I would judge everybody. What's the commitment?
Yes.
Now, I think De Bruyne has a lot more ability than Roy Keane for scoring goals and making passes. Yeah, but you'd want to mix it. I'd love to see him with Scholes' temperament or his temperament, that he's in the team, he's doing it for the team, and he's doing everything for the team. I don't get that from him. But of course, he's hugely talented and can make brilliant passes and see passes. He can do all that. But to make him really great, and to things that I see people writing about him now, I'd like to see that commitment. And then if he had that, I would say, yes, I think he is one of the greats. Okay,
John, it's great to talk to you, and thank you very much for that. I'm tempted to ask you a last question. If you were playing against Roy Keane, and he was a hard man, and you were a very hard man, would you have had to be hard, or would you play it fair until he clattered into you?
Yeah, Yeah, you play against each other over a lot of. I mean, of course, if anybody clattered into me, then you're willing to have a go back. I mean, but you don't like the main thing is actually playing. You know, like the main. It's not a matter of clattering right into anybody else. Are you playing well? And that classing is only a small element in it, really, because you're showing that you're not going to be bullied. That's the main thing. And you know what the game is like in our day. You know, grievous bodily harm, somebody got a yellow card. So you were a small guy, I was a small guy, and you're regarded as skillful players. You have to be able to protect yourself. But the main thing on the pitch, if I was playing against Roy Keane, was to play well against him.
And I'm just imagining in my mind what he did to Alf Inge Haaland, and what you only did once apparently in your whole career against some poor unfortunate man. You were only sent off once, weren't you? He was sent off loads of times. It's a miracle. Anyway,
I was sent off once. Yeah, that's all.
It was at Luton.
Yeah, I didn't do stupid things. I mean,
no, you didn't.
And the main thing wasn't to go out and do something.
No,
you just had to protect yourself, and like you had to have that in your armour. In other words, you go out. You know, there were certain players. I mentioned one in particular, very talented lad, played for Arsenal. I don't want to name his name, but he was a terrific player. But he could be bullied out of it.
Yes.
So, like, my attitude was, I'm not going to be bullied out of it. I'll give you back more. But if nobody kicks me, I wouldn't kick them.
You wouldn't start it.
No, you had to protect. You had to do that, or else let me say, now when you're playing against this guy, just give him a few kicks and he's out of the game. You can't afford to do that. But I'll tell you what I would do. I would have loved to have played with Roy Keane.
Yes, absolutely. He's such a great player.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm not going to walk you or me into any more trouble. I only hold the coats for you hard men. Anyway, John, it's a pleasure as always to talk to you. I'll talk to you during the match tomorrow night, Liverpool Chelsea. I'd be interested to see, as you say, I don't think he'll play a full team, Klopp, but as you say, we'll have a look at the next team to face Liverpool, who off the top of my head, I can't recall who it is, but maybe they'll take it out on them.
Well, I would tell you, if I were you, I would advise, and I don't have a bet, I'd have a bet on Liverpool definitely winning the next match.
Okay, John Giles, thank you very much.